Well, hello class. Welcome to Unit 2. One of the things that you'll notice, I hope, that as you get into the second unit is that you'll see that it's 2 weeks in length. Okay, the first unit was only 1 week. The second unit and the following units are multiple weeks long. Okay, and so I do that very intentionally. I want to give you time to focus on the questions, focus on the reading. And I felt, in the past as we did 1 week per unit, didn't allow enough time to actually engage in thoughtful discussion. It didn't allow for time to get sometimes the reading accomplished, to engage with the thoughtful videos and different things that we were using in the course itself. So over the past probably couple of semesters, I guess I could say, we have started to implement a 2-week, for the most part, unit kind of time frame. So you will notice that your initial thoughts are due by the end of this first week as far as the forums go, the forum discussions, and I'll go over that here in a second. And then you have the second week of the forum to engage in the discussion. You will also notice that you have LibTAC chapters 1 through 3 and 9, okay? So what I'm looking for you to do in your assignments is to do your LibTAC 321 response number 1. So make sure that you are in the syllabus and you're dealing with the corresponding dates and all of that, which we'll get to here in a bit as well. Okay, it's also important to remember that you do have your first assignment that is due, and I will go over that in the bulk of this video as well. Okay, so we're going over well-being in its entirety. We'll talk about the career diamond. We'll look at Holland's person-environment fit, work adjustment theory, treatment plans and career counseling, conceptualizing matching theories, the complexity of career counseling, and so forth. So there's a good deal of reading to check out this week, or I guess in these next 2 weeks, and so a lot of questions to respond to as well. So one of the things that you will see here in the forum discussions is there's a number of questions here, and I really want you to thoughtfully engage and think about all of these different questions. Okay, so you've got some articles to read on Gallup, some things to check out there. So looking at poor well-being and unhealthy stress employees and how they're hurting your business and so forth. You'll see that in the bulk of the book, as well as that we look at here in this these articles, that the higher the well-being is in employees, the less money it costs to the actual employer. The lower the well-being, the more money it costs. And so it makes sense when you're talking about career and career well-being and career development to figure out how do we help clients. Maybe you even go and do kind of executive coaching or something like that, or you're working as a corporate therapist and doing some of these career development components, and talking with with companies about how increasing one's overall well-being actually costs the institution less money. So these are important connections and conversations to be had. Okay, so as you're getting into, I want you to share some thoughts on the articles, share some thoughts on the assessment. You will already have been written your paper or are writing your paper. So this week you're going to get in by the first week of this unit. You'll respond to the questions. So maybe you hopefully have already done the reading. It should say in addition to the 2-page critique, 2 to 3 page critique that was submitted. You could even put in there that will be submitted because, of course, you have some additional time to turn that assignment in. Okay, and again, we'll go over that. We'll also talk about the career diamond, and then there's a number of other questions here for you to discuss as well. If you look at later on in the form, it says go to the following site and take the online assessment in order to determine your Holland code. This is from John Holland. Interesting and sad piece of information is that I didn't know this, but I was talking with a colleague and mentioned that John Holland actually took his own life. So, if that is to be true, man, that would be a sad reality because Holland was one who wanted to look at individuals and figure out how do you kind of pursue the things that you're most interested in? How do you live kind of this best life yet type of reality? That's an interesting kind of piece of information, and obviously the work that we're doing is we're trying to help clients, we're trying to help individuals in our lives to live, long-term, sustainably overall well-being or well-lived, joy-filled lives. We want the element, the level of well-being in our clients to increase and to be high because we want to see them living a flourishing life. So I think this assessment, this book, is actually a very important book to be read. Obviously, you are, again, not training to be full-time career coaches or career counselors, but I do think that you'll be able to find some connections between, some significant connections actually at that, between this book as well as the work that you have been doing and you will continue to do in this field. Okay, so pay special attention to that. All right, so as we kind of scroll down, you look at the syllabus, you'll see the forum discussion, 3 to 4 paragraphs, 250 to 300 words, and you can kind of go through that. So your initial post must be made no later than midnight on the first week of each unit, and then of course your conversation takes place with this back and forth, and I want you to emphasize that back and forth in an engaged dialogue and discussion with your classmates, okay? So you can continue down, and you can see there's some case studies and vignettes, okay? Excuse me. So you'll notice that responses to the case studies must be posted no later than the second Sunday at midnight. So if we have a 2-week unit, then the case study responses are to be done in the second week of that unit, okay? So here we are in Unit 2, and you do have 2 case studies. You have case study number 1 and case study number 2. So those 2 case studies must be responded to by the end of the unit, which is the end of the second week of the unit, okay? You will also notice that in Unit 2, we have the first LipTAC 321 response. So again, if you scroll down in the syllabus, you will notice that this 321 response must be made no later than midnight on the first Sunday of each unit, okay? So if you have, again, a forum discussion, you have a LipTAC 321 response, and you have a case study or 2, the process would be by the end of the first week of the unit, your initial response is to be made in the forums, along with your response, in totality, to the LipTAC 321. That's by the end of the first unit. By the end of the second, or the first week of the unit. By the end of the second week of the unit, you should have then engaged in discussion with at least 2 of your classmates in the forum discussion area, and then of course you should have then responded to your case studies by the end of the second week. Okay, I hope that's clear. I will say this about the well-being assessment, so let's talk about this very quickly. If you have questions, always feel free to email me, to call. If you're on campus, come by the office. I'm happy to talk. I'm on East Campus in the Rose Garden, office number 5A. Okay, so let's look at this. The well-being assessment. You can look at kind of the details of that. Each student is required to purchase a new version of the well-being. You are to take the assessment first, as I mentioned last week, and then read the book. Did you agree with your results? Why or why not? Do you see the assessment as being valuable to you personally as well, but specifically to the field of career counseling? Why or why not? Be sure to explain how you think it might best serve you as a therapist in conducting career counseling, but also connect it to your overall work as a therapist. How it might, how the content in the text, specifically relates to the content included that you have read so far in both the Anderson and Vandehee and LipTAC text. Now, of course, this paper is due at the end of Unit 2. You've been in the class for a total of 3 weeks by that time. So you will not have read a tremendous amount of content in those first 3 weeks, but you will have engaged with 3 books. You'll have kind of delved into this whole arena, and you should have plenty from which to choose, okay, and connect and things of that nature. So make sure that you kind of are engaging all that you have kind of taken part of, that you've read, that you've kind of considered in all of these different books, okay? So what you're doing is you think about the forum discussion, think about the readings, you are building for yourself a bit of a base that's going to then be beneficial for you as you progress through this course, okay? And you will be thinking about, in long term, as you think, kind of where are we going, way in the front of our car, if you're thinking rear view mirror, where we've been, and then in the front mirror, where are we headed, toward the end, you're going to think about what are the assessments and the theories and techniques really that you have most that have most resonated with you. Things that you would say, if I were to do this work, these are the things that I would want to spend my time focused on kind of trafficking in and making application with when working with my clients. Okay, so these are things that you have to. Yeah, I would encourage you to really start thinking about. Intentionally at this point in time, okay? So I will mention that the Career Diamond is unique to Anderson and Vandehee. If you were to say, I really like the Career Diamond, as you think about your further assessments down the road, or your assignments, you'll have a hard time finding any sort of literature or research on the Career Diamond. There may be some more in the last couple of months, but for the most part, Anderson and Van de Hee, it's unique to them. There's an article from, I think it was way back in the 50s, I want to say, but it's talking about a different Career Diamond assessment. Okay, so you may be able to make some connections with other writings that both Anderson and Van de Hee maybe have done together or separately. Just know that it is unique to this book specifically, and it's actually one of the reasons why I like what we're using in this text, because it's something that you can't find really anywhere else. And if you do find it elsewhere in other texts, maybe they've started to use it more these days, please pass that information along. Okay. So here's a couple things to keep in mind when you are submitting your response to the well-being assessment in the book. Okay. This is an opinion paper. Okay. This is, I feel this way. But you still want to make sure that you provide proper citation, that you include the books that you have read and referred to. And so when you are making reference to something that somebody else said in a book, of course you want to properly cite that in the body of the text itself. Okay, so I always say, if you are not sure if you should cite something, err on the side of citing it. But make sure you cite it properly. Okay. Make sure that you have a proper references page. So for purposes of this assignment, you need a cover page. Make sure that cover page is written properly. Okay, if you have questions, check APA or go to the Purdue OWL site, the online writing laboratory at Purdue University, and then make sure your references page is properly formatted. Okay, so this is really important because these are some of the simplest ways that students can make sure they don't lose points. Okay, I am a stickler for format. I'm a stickler for spelling. I'm a stickler for grammar, and so it's going to be important that you really focus on doing all of those things correctly. Okay, 1-inch margins all the way around. Some of your Word programs have an automatic default to 1.25 inches. We need it to be, according to APA, 1-inch margins all the way around. Okay, and when you're submitting, you're uploading your documents, you are going to upload both the Word document of your paper as well as the PDF results from the assessment. Okay, both of them can and need to be submitted together into Sakai under the Assignments tab. Okay, so there's a lot to be done in this next 2 weeks of Unit 2, but I trust that you will have no problem accomplishing all of it. I had one other question I wanted to address. And in the future, when you start answering these 3-2-1 responses and you're asking questions, I will also make sure to spend some time focused on these questions. Okay, so if you look at Unit 7 and Unit 7.1 and 7.2, you will notice that 7.1 is only 1 week long and 7.2 is only 1 week long. That is because in between Units 7.1 and 7.2 is Thanksgiving break. Okay, so if you look really closely, it's the same chapters, it's the same assignments, it's the same topic to be discussed. So really what you're looking at there, because of the Thanksgiving break, is you have a full 3 weeks then to respond to your prompts and questions, and I will definitely make sure to go over the due dates and all of those things when it comes down to it. Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to call me. Again, come by the office if you are an Azusa student or if you're in the area from one of the other campuses, or if you'd like to do a Google Hangout or a Skype, I'm happy to do that as well. So just know that I know that this online environment is not exactly what some love to do. They love the face-to-face. I was listening to a book on tape yesterday, though, and it talked about how when you look at some of the research, it actually indicates that online learners retain information at significantly higher levels than do traditional face-to-face students. Now, this was undergraduate, but I'm assuming, and I'm going to think that for graduate learners, the same might be the case. Now, this is a high-touch program, but I do know that if we do this class right and correctly, and I've tried to design it in such a way that we are doing it right and correctly, there is an opportunity for some really deep learning and some great takeaways as you explore this content, perhaps for the first time in your career. So if you have a great week, looking forward to reading your responses. I'll get back to you as far as your introductory comments go, and then I will engage over the next several weeks. You'll also see my TA, Micah Morris, in there. If you see any responses or different things from a person you don't see as a student, that you'll know that it's from Micah as he's TAing in this class. Have a great week, and we will see you online.